Hello and welcome to our webcast. I'm Amy Pendergrass with Moss Adams, and I'm going to get us started for today's session, Streamlining Winery Performance, Tips and Tools for Success. And we're pleased that you've joined us today. And now I'm going to play our housekeeping video.
Welcome, and thank you for viewing our webcast series. Before we begin, please keep the following in mind. You can customize how you view our presentation and interact with the presenter. For better viewing, close all other applications and turn up your speaker volume. You can adjust window size and placement or enter full screen mode using the controls at the top right of the window or dragging the bottom right-hand corner to resize. At the bottom of your screen, you'll see a series of icons that relate to a different aspect of our session. You can download a PDF of today's slides from the Slide Deck and Handouts widget. You can ask questions by typing in the Q&A window and clicking Submit. We'll do our best to answer all questions or follow up via email. If you experience technical difficulty, refresh your browser by hitting the F5 key. This presentation is not legal, investment, or accounting advice. We encourage you to seek the counsel of a professional service provider to apply this content to your specific circumstances.
All right, we have two presenters with us today from Moss Adams. We have Ray Paulson, our Wine, Beer, and Spirits Assurance Partner, and Brian Favorat, Senior Manager in Enterprise Systems Consulting. Their bios and contact information are located in your console. And please feel free to submit questions to our presenters throughout the session by using the Q&A window. We will follow up with you if we don't have time to address them today. And now I would like to turn the floor over to Ray to get the presentation started.
Thanks, Amy. Hi, everyone. Welcome, and thanks for joining us today. As Amy said, I'm Ray Paulson, an assurance partner here in our Wine, Beer, and Spirits practice, and happy to see you here all today. Quick agenda here of what we'll be covering. Obviously, streamlining winery performance is a bit of a broad topic, but we have just a short time here today, but we'll cover a lot of various things, and hopefully certain pieces resonate with you, and then we're here to talk after if we can help elaborate further. So we wanted to kick things off first by just sharing what we're seeing or what we're hearing out there across our client base, and in the industry in general. Over the past year and still currently, there's a lot of different factors in play that pose challenges to you all, as you're well aware. And they're all over the map, and some even kind of in opposite directions, right? When we look here, we have a few bullets. We're hearing about client concerns when, in some cases after distributors have previously, tightened up their buying, working through their inventory, working to deplete through some of that before they sort of resume, what used to be more normal buying habits. And then once they're ready to turn that corner, we're maybe in a position of saying, well, gosh, now how can we ramp back up? Can we provide that demand? Can we meet their needs? How do we meet that across our various products and regions and things like that? On the flip side, we certainly have hear a lot about excess inventory levels on hand, and in several cases as concerns about the best approach to right size things. Do we have the right information about cost and future potential price points for selling this wine in other channels? If we sell off too much of this at too low of a price point and that's cash in the door, what does it do to our borrowing base, right? There's lots of competing factors, and we'll talk about a few more of these as we go, but just to sort of hit on some of the things that better systems and things may be able to help you deal with. Of course, there's economic uncertainty that may be changing buying patterns, a better need for margin analysis, or as I referred to, information on your cost of goods sold to be able to figure out where to meet increased demand and what makes sense. And then classic, even the wine industry has operations, all over the map, right? From very small to very robust, but even in cases where there's some pretty sophisticated, accounting systems, ERP systems, and some tools in place, undoubtedly we run across situations where we're surprised to still see, Excel spreadsheets being used, and that, definitely can make it hard to properly plan. So in addition to that general sort of, how to, produce supply or meet demand, generally a need for system integration, better system integration for systems to talk to each other, to mine data properly. All the data may be there in its different locations, but how do we integrate that and really make it so that's usable for us to make decisions for the operational purposes, financial performance, what have you. Some of the issues that extend, some of these issues that really extend from the ones we just covered, but they don't get any simpler when we're sort of looking at them all in combination, right? I mean, how do we respond to things from an integrated perspective in terms of, the sales team and the pricing and the inventory levels and the distributor needs, right? That you can't really look at any one of those on its own without a more integrated view. How do we determine, if some of the changes and shifts that we're seeing are those just blips, anomalies, or are they really, trends that we need to pay more attention to and actually develop an adjustment to our plan and respond to? Obviously, cash flow planning, takes a bit more of the components into play altogether, and needing to have better visibility into data just to enable management to make better decisions in general. These are all things that we hear, from clients and connections in the industry, and know that there's, a need, and life could be better, right? So how do we shift from just some information gathering to actually trying to implement some strategies, to deal with all of this? There's still a lot of challenges and really trade-offs in how to, consider some of these things. As we try to shift towards strategic approaches to actually make better decisions and streamline performance. Again, on kind of opposing viewpoints, right? Some of the things we've kind of hit on, but dealing with higher inventory levels. So what if your typical channels for moving excess inventory remain at or close to capacity, and there's no outlet there? What's plan B? How do we look at the information we have and come up with another option? What if financing extensions are, in order to execute those, we really need compelling plans and better data and integrated information that management can provide to lenders or potential lenders? Do we need to mitigate, how do we mitigate the risk of losing or underserving a key supplier when we have, excess inventory and aren't in a buying position? On the other hand, if we're dealing with needing to provide increased demand, as we mentioned, how do we respond to that once distributors are there and ready, which we've been hoping for, and they're ready to go? How do we make sure we can react to that quickly? And how do we make sure to mitigate the risk of losing or underserving any key customers? Really comprehensive planning, again, is just needed, overall, to try to address some of these interrelated, sometimes opposing, but often interrelated issues. And more of that decision making, I mean, it's the pace of change is just getting faster, right? You need data, you need to provide lenders, owners, investors, or suppliers, customers, data quicker and quicker. No one's wanting to wait longer and longer for this type of information, or for us to pull data from 3 different systems and put it into an Excel spreadsheet and create a KPI or a snapshot of some key metrics. There's systems out there that can really help us do that much quicker. Obviously, decisions in one area can have impacts throughout another, and we just have to be able to look at those quickly rather than wait and see and how it trickles through. We need faster assessments of results and an ability to really stay agile and keep planning flexible and respond to changes. And finally assessing trends within a period, really, rather than waiting until after the fact. I live often in the after the fact world. Being an auditor, we have relationships along the way with our clients, but we're almost always looking in the rearview mirror, as many of you know, and that doesn't work for management reporting in real-time operational and financial decision making. It's got to be more real time in order to adjust and proceed. We know we've hit on a lot of different things here, and that's quickly, but that's sort of the point. There's a lot of different things that you all are facing. We hear of others facing, and if any one of these items resonates you, we would rather just kind of quickly hit on a lot of different things, because the systems that Brian will introduce and some of the options there really can respond to a wide variety of these types of issues that we've quickly passed over. So with that, I'll turn it over to Brian. And again, we're here if there's questions, and afterward to continue supporting you through this.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you, Ray. All right. How to become a data-driven organization? That's often a question that we get from our clients to some degree. And sometimes it's not always expressed in those exact terms. And to some degree, everybody has varying levels of data complexity, sophistication within their organization. But the challenge that is kind of universal amongst everyone, and that's what this graph here is kind of going to show, is you have this relationship constantly between channel management in the organization, distribution, supply chain, inventory, finance, operations, right? And some of the people in the organization might be playing several of these roles, but really they're all interconnected. And what we're trying to help clients here to achieve, to solve for, is how can we embed this information into the business process? Because that's really the key to success here, we find with most of these organizations. So some of the challenges that come along with that have to do with, how is the plan maintained and reviewed and all the rest of it. And for some clients and prospects out there, they might be leveraging spreadsheets. And as everyone knows, there's certain limitations to that, but it's not specific to spreadsheets. But really, the problem arises from, as Ray had mentioned earlier, kind of looking more rearward facing rather than being able to answer questions more in the now, and also giving some indication as to where are we going. So instead of answering the question of how did we do, we're looking to more answer the question of how are we doing and where are we going, or at least where are we trying to go, something to that effect. So delays in planning, they take away from this, and getting that real-time, lack of real-time information really prevents that critical reaction time to being able to make some of those decisions. Perhaps has to do with a bit of inventory management or distributor inventory management, depletions, talking to the org first. Maybe there's certain expenses that could be better managed. Having that information at your fingertips can provide a whole slew of potential advantages throughout the process. So connected systems. One of the things we want to review with you all today is an example of an FP&A solution here that can help provide this interconnectivity between the functions in the organization. It is a tool, but at the end of the day, what we're really trying to do is influence the process behind what's going on in the organization. How can we get better communication and collaboration happening on a centralized platform so that we can answer those questions? How are we doing? Where are we looking to go? But not only that, there's other things we might like to answer as well. Like, for instance, if we did this, that becomes a very common question for organizations that are successfully managing their data. Not only can we have a handle on what is happening, but we can then start to imagine, okay, we want to manifest some change into the future. If we're able to make some of these adjustments, what would that future look like from us, from a operational perspective, from a financials perspective? So having the platform and structure in place to be able to do that sort of thing lends itself to that type of success. So what we're going to show today is a Workday solution scenario. It has to do with Workday Adaptive Planning. And what I'm going to walk through here is how the marketing or sales function can provide some initial inputs that later get into consolidated planning at a distributor level, which then produces results for management to basically set goals, create some targets, figure out what attainment might look like, and then provide that production guidance as to, okay, here's what's happening, where do we need to be as an organization to manage that type of success. So timing is critical. But having the level of information at the right user at the right time is also very critical here as well. All right. So bear with me one moment here as I transition my screen. Just takes a moment. And Ray, let me know when that comes up for you.
Okay, you have turned into a screen share.
Perfect. Thanks so much. All right. So what I'm displaying here on my screen, what I'm hoping everybody here is seeing, is Workday Adaptive Planning. And I'm just starting here initially on this dashboard page. So in this demonstration, I want to talk about a few different things, but really as it relates to how are we planning our demand? What is the financial implications of that look like? And then also, what are the inventory implications from facilitating all of this? So on this particular screen, and we'll circle back to this again a little bit later, but just to provide some orientation of where we're at, we're seeing our demand projection for the upcoming year. What are our depletions? We're really driving up from those customer groups or the channels that we might be selling down to. And there might be different people responsible for those groups. So as part of this dashboard, you can also see things like the distributors, the different varietals, the regions that might have certain KPIs related or accountable to them, and also the brands. So all of this information, as the plan is getting put together, can be updated and then referred to back to in near real time on this type of dashboard. So our financial tab, as I pivot over here, as the operational figures are being managed and maintained, we also have various financial assumptions that produce our performance outlook for what the upcoming year would look like. The upcoming year, but also the present, so you can bring actuals into this as well. Because what we really want to do is tell the story of here's what's been happening, and then here's what is happening, and here's what we'd like to continue to see happen or manifest that change into the future. And then with this third tab here, you can also take a look at our inventory. So maybe perhaps you want to see your company inventory represented on a graph here, and then also distributor inventories as well. So you can have all of this information kind of at your fingertips in a format that is conducive to the appropriate audiences within the organization. All right, so enough of just kind of going through some graphs here. What I want to show you a little bit about is some of the meat and potatoes of how this works. So in my example here, I have an example depletion plan. This is from my upcoming budget cycle, and you can use this for annual budgeting and reforecasting. But in my annual budget cycle here, what I'm planning are the depletions, and I'm planning them for perhaps you have one or more wineries that have different products. So we have those across the top. And then what's really running in the middle of the screen here are all my various channels. Now I have kind of like a consolidated and somewhat genericized view of this, but however you're looking to manifest your depletion management, that could be at a customer group level, it could be at a specific customer level, it could be at kind of a generic channel, whatever that might look like. I have a couple different channels here as some representations, but you might also have some direct to customer or even some export business, whatever that looks like. The idea here is that sales or marketing, who's ever responsible for this type of operational performance, is evaluating here's how much here's how much is getting met on the customer side of things. Here's how much is going out from our distributors. So as we're planning up that information, what that then starts to tell us is how much do we need to then ship to those distributors to have them have the appropriate inventory on hand to be able to continue to meet that demand and also apply the appropriate seasonality to it, because perhaps at different times of the year, you're noticing different trends in your inventory management. So this system here can really help accommodate for all that, because it can maintain for the upcoming forecast a lot of the trends that have happened historically. So being able to take that information, roll it forward, and then apply some analytics to, okay, here's what we'd like to do as we move forward. So on the next tab here, what we're going to see is our distributor sales planning tab. So this distributor sales planning, it has a lot of information running in here. So I'm just going to kind of walk through it a bit to provide some guidance and context. This again is focused on a specific winery for a specific product. And then what we're able to do here with this sales channel is I might have some different distributors that I'm selling through, along with maybe direct to consumer and also some export business. We can plan our shipments to meet that demand. So what's actually happening here is we have a distributor inventory where we're understanding what their balances are so that we can figure out here's how much product we need to get over to them to be able to manage that appropriately. So with this information, we can kind of get a glimpse of here's where we're at with a very specific product, with a very specific distributor, allowing that granular level of access of data. But simultaneously, what can also be happening here is the monetization of all of that. So being able to put in our pricing, perhaps even the DA, discounts, allowances, whatever might factor into the product movement from a money standpoint. So we have our revenue, our COGS, and then any potential metrics that we might like to be able to achieve off of that. So in these metrics, they don't have to be held at the highest level from an organizational point of view. I mean, of course, you'd be able to do that sort of thing. But I'm sure what everybody is looking to do, if not already aspiring to that, is be able to figure out our profitability or our margin perhaps by product. Where are we really winning within our organization, and how can we continue to capitalize on that? What can we continue to push to meet the demands that the market presents to us, but also make it worthwhile for the business to continue into these ventures? So this level of detail, and there's a variety of ways you can manage this, but this provides kind of a summary glimpse here of how you'd be able to put that information in and have it materialize some interesting results for you. So the depletions flowing here into our distributor sales planning, getting us kind of monetization results. But as we build up our distribution plan, what that also relates to, or is inferred from that, is our inventory planning. So if we have shipments that go out to customers, we have to have inventory on hand to meet that. So this model here is showing us what is our company inventory. So our beginning transfers into that finished goods inventory from production, our shipments out to distributors, and then our ending balance. So where are we trending, or where are we at with certain things? And I've created an example in this, and I walk through that really quickly, of an error that may need to be corrected in order to be able to facilitate or, again, meet that distributor supply demand. All right, so we've walked through a couple of the different models here. Very intuitive, very easy to interact with, and I'm going to show a quick example of that. So now that we have kind of, let's say, a first iteration of our plan put together, what we can do is start to render some of these results onto reports. So one of the reports that I created here is an inventory planning sheet. And what this inventory planning is showing is our ending inventory balances at the organizational level. And what this tells us is if we need any additional production, perhaps, or if maybe we have excess, to be able to meet the demands of that distribution. So what I've done is I've created just a simple report here. It shows you, for a certain time period in our projection by brand and by product, where are we in terms of our 9-liter equivalent cases. So what I've done is I've had some conditional formatting. I've put yellow on here as a caution, perhaps. There's certain thresholds that maybe could be concerning to us. But I've also used conditional formatting to highlight in red areas where we might be negative. So that would obviously be a problem. So being able to send case inventory out without being able to have any on hand would prompt an issue that we would need to resolve. Either we need to send out less cases, or we have to be able to meet that with production. So in my model here, what we're going to do is assume that we're able to meet that production need. Perhaps I maybe just mistyped it, or whatever the case might be. Maybe operations is able to work with production to facilitate some sort of change here. So what I'm going to do is I have some seasonality added into this production finished goods to go into my company inventory here. So I'm just going to increase this up. Let's just say it's going to go from 550 here to 700 cases for this particular product. And Adaptive is saying, okay, great. You want to increase your production here. How do we want to get the numbers back into the time span, into the different months? Because very likely we were trying to understand this information from a monthly perspective. So what I want to do is I want to break that back proportionally so I can maintain that seasonality. But what's also really neat about this is you can constantly leverage history as a guide as well. So if you had any actuals in the system for this purpose, you could also continue to use these other functions to appropriately weight how the shipments appear. So what I do is click OK here. And then after I've done that, I simply click Save on my model. And now that I've made my adjustment, and again, this could be inventory, it could be depletions, it could be shipments, whatever the case is. This is just a small example of that. But through these adjustments, we can come back to our reports. I'm just going to do a quick refresh here. And it appears that I've resolved for my dancing duck cab the issue I might have with production. Now, obviously, there'd probably be some more conversations that would go in place to make that sort of thing happen. I'm sure be some working to make that production possible. But through these types of adjustments and through this visibility into the organization, this type of conversation perhaps can happen earlier to be able to rectify any issues so that the appropriate production can be put into place or whatever adjustments might be needed to allow for the shipments to occur. So this was our inventory planning example here. I've also created a couple other quick examples here of depletion planning by distributor. Perhaps we want to have better analysis or analytics to this degree. And similarly, we might have some depletion also broken out by our regions. And I know that a lot of you might be interested in understanding better about where and how your product is being distributed, if it's domestically or internationally or whatever the case might be. And then again, at the end of the day, what this all can circle back to, how are we kind of monitoring? What are the metrics that we're using to monitor our organization? We have these dashboards that provide that information. So kind of stop sharing there. I hope that my demonstration today provided some context into the capabilities. There are a lot more capabilities, obviously, that come along with this. But as it relates to winery production, sales, and distribution, our clients have found this to be quite helpful and intuitive in terms of the management of that. And before we wrap up here, just another quick concept I want to touch on. And this is also capable within the tool, but is the idea here of the rolling forecast. So what we've talked about was our upcoming fiscal year, perhaps in terms of 2025, being able to plan production for them. But we can also migrate from maybe just having these annual budgets put into play to also doing forecasts or even rolling forecasts. So in the top example here that you're seeing on the screen, that is the annual plan where, here's actuals occurring and then our plan for the year, and we're managing maybe only to that. But with a tool that allows you to do a rolling forecast, instead of having this big effort to put in, to the annual budget process, very stressful and, kind of limited in scope, you can also implement what is called a continuous forecast to allow for ongoing forecasts to constantly see months into the future so that as things are happening, you're able to, again, better to react to that, have that data, to have those conversations internally to manifest that change. So planning in multiple versions, also very useful. You can plan your annual forecast, you can do your reforecast, but also being able to adapt and say, what if we were able to do this? And that might be, what if we want to change pricing on certain products that we have by a certain percentage, or if we want to be able to reduce our costs in certain areas, how might we go about doing that? And if we're able to achieve that sort of thing, how would that affect our margin? All of this ties together. So by applying these adjustments at the lowest level and having that granularity for the organization to really interact with it, a lot of benefits can be attained from those activities and then produce, the results that everybody is looking to aspire to. So I thank you all for joining today. Again, benefits of automated planning, power of rolling forecasts, being able to move, if perhaps you're leveraging spreadsheets, to move to a more automated platform, make consolidations easier for yourselves, management reporting capabilities and dashboarding, and just doing that what if analysis to be able to say, this is how things, here's what's happened, here's how things are trending, here's where we'd like to go, and what can we do to, to better manifest that change. So thank you all for joining today, and we appreciate your time.
All right. Well, thank you, Ray and Brian, for your time. To our audience, if you have any further questions or comments, please don't hesitate to reach out, and we would be happy to continue this conversation. You can drop a note in the Q&A window or reach out to our presenters directly. Their contact information is in your console as well as in the slide deck, which you can download now from the handouts window. And finally, here's a link to a survey for today's presentation. And thank you for joining us. Take care, everyone.